Welcome to Meeting Management, the Lions University course brought to you by the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. My name is Lion Budwall, and I'd like to welcome you to this evening's webinar and remind you that we are recording this session for those who cannot participate live this evening, or for anyone wishing to review the material at a later time. And once we begin, you may be asked to respond to a question, or you may have a question yourself. And this can be handled either by typing your question in the questions pane in the panel along the right side of your screen, or by raising your hand or clicking on your hand in the control panel so that you can be unmuted, giving you the opportunity then to share verbally with the entire group. Meeting Management is course 224, an elective course for the Lions University Master's Program that is designed to help Lions lead at the district level. The Master's Program involves the completion of the 10 required courses you see on the left side of your screen, and at least 5 of the elective courses listed on the right side of your screen. This is the Lions University website, lionsuniversity.org. And this slide shows a page in the bachelor's program listing the courses offered in that level. Now, the master's program page would have similar information, but would include the courses in the master's program. And if you were to click on any of the courses listed on the page, you would then be taken directly to that particular course page, giving you all the details for that course, along with a link to register for the course and links to any course handouts, and of course the quiz. We even have a calendar page you can click on to see what courses are scheduled in the weeks and the months ahead. This slide shows what a course page typically looks like. It lists the course number and name, gives a description of the course, shows who the faculty member is, and gives you links to register for the class and any course materials. And if you haven't already done so, you will have to create a separate username and password to get in to register for the course and to have access to the quiz. And after participating in the webinar or watching the video of the webinar, you can then click on the Mark as Completed box at the bottom there, marked by the red arrow, and at the bottom of the page, and you will then be allowed to take the test. When you complete the quiz and submit your answers, you will instantly be given the results. You can then click on the My Account tab near the top of the page and see a first-hand view of the courses you have completed in both the bachelor and master's level. Now, our faculty member this evening is Lion Tom Gordon. Lion Tom is a past council chairperson from MDA, Ontario, Canada, multiple District A. He has been an active member of the District A16 cabinet since 1985, and he has been a director on many foundations both within and outside the scope of Lions, and as such has had the opportunity to sit on many meetings that were expertly managed. And unfortunately, he has also experienced too many meetings that were poorly managed. Lion Tom has been a presenter on the district and multiple district level, as well as at the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. He comes to Lions University as a well-qualified instructor with a wealth of knowledge, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome him here tonight. So, Lion Tom, with that, I welcome you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Bud. It's my pleasure to be doing this, and I'm glad that you all have joined me. That's you all. It sounds like, I guess I'm from Southern Ontario. I'm glad that you have joined me to review your skills, maybe improve them anyway, at actually running or managing a district meeting. The research that Lions International has done to discover why members leave the association shows that the #1 cause is long, boring meetings. The corollary then would be short, exciting meetings. So how do you get short, exciting meetings? That's our challenge. And believe me, I've run some stinkers myself, and I still find it a challenge to run meetings that are interesting, informative, inclusive, and motivating. If you've done the LCI Center, Learning Center course on managing meetings, and you have participated in the bachelor level course, Effective Club Meetings, you may find some of the content redundant. In addition, those newly minted governors had a component of meeting management training as well. Our primary focus will be applying these concepts to district level meetings, that is, governor's zone advisory meetings, region rallies, district cabinet meetings. Some people call their meetings by different names. I've heard midwinter conferences and those kinds of things. And there may even be some meetings in there that are developmental or training meetings as well. These meetings, though, typically have many reports, and they're being presented by other than the presiding officer, and they often run longer than a typical club meeting. If you are a GLT or GMT coordinator, a zone chairperson, a region chairperson, or a district governor, you will be called upon to do these meetings, and a number of skills areas should be part of your knowledge set. Oh, let's not forget the vice district governors as well, who may be called upon in the absence of the district governor to handle the cabinet meeting. This will require some introspection and self-evaluation on your own part to prepare you for the critical leadership area. I would suggest to you that the leading well-managed meetings is what, in some people's minds, makes an effective leader. Please try to have fun with these, though, even when you're leading the meetings. I know they're seriously, and you can take the job very seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. You're going to make mistakes. Admit them, have fun with them. You are human. So let's get ourselves started. Well, meetings are very important to Lionism. This is where we, as Lions, decide how we best serve our communities. Effective meetings provide a positive social experience, knowledge growth, and some opportunities for successful community projects. Our learning goals for this evening will be to discuss the organizational, presentation, facilitation, and public speaking skills needed to manage an excellent meeting. I've included some checklists that I use in these areas when I'm training district and club officers. It's up to you whether you follow them or not, or totally ignore them. That will be up to you. Our objectives tonight are, first of all, to define the role of the presiding officer, to list steps taken before, during, and after the meeting to ensure the meeting's success, to explore a sample agenda, to review presentation and facilitation techniques, and to discuss the importance of follow-up. I've broken down the presentation into three main parts. And this is only my organization. I know Mark Miller would do this differently, but when I organize it, I look at what things I have to do before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. You may want to take jot notes, or if you're doing this on the recording later, you can just stop parts of these and then replay parts for further examination. While the science or the technology of having successful meetings is available to you, or basically anyone who is interested, the art of putting together this meeting only comes with observation and practice. When you run a meeting at the district level, you should have had some practice at the club level beforehand. Use what worked for you at that club level initially before you try to make too many drastic changes on what you're going to do at the district level. Here's the roles of the presiding officer. And there are many. I mean, there's organizer, presenter, effective speaker, facilitator. And, even though you're the moderator of this thing, sometimes you have to be the leader in there as well. It doesn't naturally follow that just because you're the moderator, you don't have to do any leading at any spot. Certainly you do. Each leadership role I've taken on has provided some unique experiences and challenges to overcome, and each position has provided me immense satisfaction as I moved up through the leadership roles in Lions. Each experience, I think, has been better than the previous one. That being said, running effective meetings was the most time-consuming and nerve-wracking of all these experiences. Not only do you have to have great organizational skills, but your presentation and facilitation skills will be tested as well. You could do all of the work yourself here now, or you could delegate portions of this work to those who have an abundance of skill and energy to help you out. Your cabinet or zone secretary, zone or region chairs, and your GLT and GMT people are great resources to assist you in producing effective meetings. I've provided some checklists that you may want to use in preparation for your own meetings. Please feel free to use these, adapt them, or again, completely ignore them. Before the meeting, As you are moving through the chairs at the club and then district levels, you need to practice your skills as a speaker and presenter. Your skills in communicating the message being sent and the quality of your voice have a lot to do with how long your group will stay on task. The experts say that we communicate our messages more visually than auditorily, so pay attention to your posture, your facial expressions, and your dress. Stand up straight, try to smile, and let your eyes move around the room, making eye contact with as many lions as you can. Try not to let your eyes linger on any one individual too long. They may get the wrong idea here. Try not to fidget with objects in your hand. I always have trouble with my remote if I'm using PowerPoint. I'm always clicking the stupid thing ahead of time. I mean, you got to watch that kind of stuff, right? Use your hands to make some salient gestures, though, that seem natural and not exaggerated. They say that if you put one hand in your pocket, it'll keep it from flapping, and it looks sort of gaunt, I guess is the word they use. Two hands in your pocket makes it look like you don't care, so be careful about that one. Move your position a little bit so you don't look like a statue or a talking head. Do have notes or key phrases on a piece of paper or a card that you can refer to without reading your delivery. They will give you confidence, and your audience will see that you are prepared. If you're not comfortable with telling jokes, don't. It's not mandatory. If you are, make sure the jokes are appropriate for your audience. Vary the tone, volume, and rate of your speech. You don't want the audience to fall asleep to the drone of a mechanical sounding speaker. If a microphone is available, use it. I've been to more meetings than I can count when speakers said, I don't need one of those things, when they really did. Pause from time to time to let your audience catch up. You may have to define a new term or give a description of a new project that is unfamiliar for the participants. Our association is loaded with acronyms, LCI, LCIF, LLC, and so on. Try to avoid these and the use of other jargon when possible. They confuse your audience, and they take time for your audience to decode. I tried to use the whole terms for Site First 2 instead of SF2. Most districts have a dress code for their officers. Stick to it. It shows respect for the association, the office you are holding, and the audience you have in front of you. As a presenter, check out the meeting site well before the meeting. Make sure there is enough space for the lions attending, that lunch and/or refreshments are ordered, and there are appropriate places for them in the room. Find out where the electrical outlets and light switches are located so that you can place your technology where it can be manipulated easily. Plan your room setup for maximum effect. Attendees have to be able to see the presenters. The size and scope of your meeting will determine the appropriate setup. I like to have a semicircle around the head table with the lions as close as I can get them. Communication is so much better when this can be arranged so everyone can see each other's faces. For very large groups and very small rooms, this is not quite possible. So do the best you can to make sure that all of the audience can see the presenters. Contact the caterer or the person in charge. This is a great thing to delegate. Or the person in charge of preparing the refreshments or meals, and let them know how many people are coming and when. When during the meeting their services are required. Assign someone to collect any monies required to pay for the meals or refreshments. Spend considerable time working on your objectives for the meeting and prepare an agenda to meet those objectives. A helpful thing to do is at the last meeting to have had an evaluation, and you can use that to help you prepare your objectives for the next meeting. Contact your mentors and the last person to fill your position to find out what works and what doesn't work with this group. I've seen and been presented many one-size-fits-all agendas. The protocol of a district meeting should be kept in place, but the agenda should be flexible enough so the participants don't think, been there, done that, right off the bat. Assign the length of time for each item on the agenda. Some presiding officers even put the exact times on their agendas. I like to be flexible enough to let one item go a little bit longer if I can shorten another, and that's usually one that I'm presenting a little later in the agenda. Prepare the arrangement of your head table, including protocols from Lions International and your local district. Prepare a list of the dignitaries and guests attending your meeting. This is another good job to delegate, and my practice has been to delegate that to the person who is succeeding me. They will get to know the dignitaries, and it gives the audience a rest from your voice and your cadence. The dignitaries need to be introduced, which establishes protocol. What I mean by that is that speakers sometimes feel they have to address all of the dignitaries in the audience when making their reports. Once this is done at the beginning of the meeting, Lions only need to address the chairperson of the meeting. This saves time and embarrassment for those new Lions who don't recognize the dignitaries. All good meetings have an objective or set of objectives that should be shared with the participants well in advance of the meeting. Our district cabinet sends the agendas out in advance and asks for committee reports to be sent in by the week before the meeting. I've included as a handout here our last agenda and invitation, and you'll see that on there is all the particulars of the meeting, where, when, how much, who's speaking, who's introducing, all those kinds of things are on the agenda. So if you want to review this later, you can go ahead and look at that agenda to do that. Once the reports are sent out, they can be packaged, or once the reports have been sent in, they can be packaged and sent out to the appropriate attendees. This gives the participants some time and opportunity to read the reports and be prepared with comments and suggestions before the meeting begins. For some people, this sounds scary. Don't let it scare you. When people are prepared, it's easier to get them back on track. Also, I would have to say to you to remember to read them thoroughly yourself, so that if people do try to take you off track, and sorry, they will, when they try to take you off track, you can fill them in from the report. Just remind them what was in the report, and that's easier to bring them back on track. Think carefully about inviting a guest speaker to the meeting. While guests do supply a change of pace and often present interesting topics, does their presentation reflect the objectives of the meeting? If not, do without. The members' time and energy is precious and limited, and these meetings tend to go long enough as it is. Read the reports thoroughly yourself and summarize the important parts so that you can bring them to the pre-meeting meeting. I haven't mentioned that yet, but I'm going to. Contact the person who wrote the report for further information if need be. Some of the poorly run meetings I've attended were the result of the meeting leader being surprised by the content of a report and then being unsure how to proceed. This also gives the leader some points to use in their introduction to the meeting. And yes, chase those who are tardy with the reports. There are some district officers I have met who drop reports from the agenda if they are late getting in. Whoa. Personally, I feel this is a little drastic, but I've done it with chronic offenders. Have pre-meeting meetings with your inner core of the executive to highlight any areas the group feels may require a lot of time and/or discussion. These can happen anytime from a couple of days or just hours before the meeting. Secretaries, treasurers, and vice district governors would be examples if we are talking about a district cabinet meeting. Secretaries, GLT and GMT coordinators, zone chairs, and anyone bringing a new proposal would be examples if we were talking about a governor's zone advisory meeting or region rally. Practice your presentation and have someone listen to you and give you feedback. Or if you really want to test yourself, videotape your presentation and watch it right away. Did your hands fly all over the place, or did you fidget with the remote, or did you lose your place in your notes? It's quite a humbling experience. If all fails, visualize yourself giving a performance that even Mark Miller would be proud of. You might be surprised by how well your meeting goes with that type of positive affirmation. Prepare an evaluation checklist to hand out to select Lions at your meeting. I hand mine out to the last person who filled my position, the next person in line to fill my position, my mentors, and a few new people to this level of meeting. Make a few extra in case people ask for one. I've often had people come to me at the end of the meeting and say, "You didn't give out an evaluation." And so I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you. Here's one." And I give them out one then. Okay, but I don't know. Are there any questions at this part, or can I continue on?
I don't see any that have come up yet. Lion Tom, so we can go on. I think a major part of before the meeting is really like what you stressed here is going over and making sure that the facility, the room that you're using, is there and ready to be used in the way that you need it. You know, the arrangement and like you say, you know, a lot of places, a lot of meetings might be held in a restaurant, and sometimes those restaurant rooms are mighty dark, especially if you're holding an evening meeting, and you need to make sure people are able to see things and view the screen if you're using a projector and the screen and are able to see the speakers. So there's so many things that you point out that need to be considered, even in the selection of a location. You know, sometimes you might have a zone chair or a region chair select a spot for a cabinet meeting or something, and when you get there as the district governor to do your cabinet meeting, you find out, wow, this is not going, this isn't going to work. You know, so you're right. You need to check all that stuff out ahead of time because you don't want to be in a situation where you get there and something's just certainly not going to work.
Right, right. And I did mention that, you know, you need to check it out so that you can get the layout the way you want it. But there's other things, you know, to keep in mind with that. One is that you need to have plugs even in the walls, be accessible to where you can set up the room. And that may change your room layout too, because nowadays we get so much stuff on PowerPoint. You know, we have to have that kind of stuff ready to go too.
That's right. And maybe even though that there's plugs there, you might require an extension cord. And you know, and you might even require one of those adapters, those three-prong adapters to make sure that for some of the old outlets that might be in some of the walls in some of these buildings. So you really have to be prepared. We do have a question came up here through Line AJ. Good to see him here again. And he says, what are your suggestions when the projector bulb goes out in the middle of the presentation?
If you read my resume, you can see that I've done a lot of presentations. For 11 years, that's all I did was presentations. Well, my best advice to you, and it's always what a presenter would do, is carry an extra bulb wherever you go. We used to use overhead projectors, but now we use the LED projectors. Now those bulbs are a lot more expensive, but you may want to carry one or have an extra projector if somebody else has a projector. I know our district has 3 or 4 of them kicking around, so we always have an extra one there. And I always bring my own, even though somebody said, well, I'll bring a projector, I just bring my own anyway.
Right. Okay. All right, you want to move on?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. So during the meeting, on the day of the meeting, get there early and make sure the room is set up the way you wanted it. Organize any technology that is going to be used during the meeting time. We have so much information from Lions International now that we can project for the group that we might as well use it, eh? Oh, did that Canadianism come in there? Sorry about that. Remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So watch your time here. Make sure you have speakers for your computers that will give good volume of sound. Just the computer itself usually doesn't project enough sound. They have some nice Wi-Fi ones now that you can actually just stick on the stand wherever you have your projector, and it'll pick up the sound from your computer and project it very well. Lastly, test all the media before you have to use it. Setting it up is one thing, but test it first. And then you may find out you have a blown bulb. Find out where all the washrooms are so you can direct members during the meeting. Check on the caterers one more time. Begin the meeting on time. I can't emphasize that enough. If you don't, you penalize those in attendance and you reward those who are tardy. Yes, there will be instances where people are unavoidably detained. Start anyway and allow them a graceful entrance when they do arrive. Respect your group and they will respect you. Once the meeting starts, welcome the group and remember to tell your group to turn off or put on vibrate their mobile communications device. Point out where the washrooms are located and when you expect to have your breaks. If there are monies to be collected for meals, Remind the group who will be collecting and when it would be appropriate time for them to meet that person. Again, this is one of those things to delegate to somebody else. Have a short introduction ready to go and outline the objectives for the meeting. Even though we have spent considerable time preparing and vetting the agenda, I suggest that you ask if there are any items that need to be added. This leads your group to understand that you are trying to be inclusive and that you respect their input. Let the group know that you can handle these items today if there is time, and assign these items to new business. Be prepared, though, to manage your participants. Your facilitation skills will be tested, but try to remember to be respectful of other people's opinions and ideas. You may have to handle interruptions and difficult behavior. Everybody deserves the right to be heard, but not to dominate or hijack the meeting. Everyone should have received the reports and had the opportunity to review those contents. Have the writers of the reports summarize the contents in their presentations. That is, to cut them down. They still need the salient points, but they don't need every single word they wrote in the report. Ask them to be brief and to the point, and put forth any motions that will be required. This really cuts down the opportunities that Lions have to disrupt the flow of the meeting. Some presiding officers require that all motions be written out beforehand and submitted to the secretary before the meeting starts. Now, as long as your secretary is organized, this allows the meeting to move along faster. I have seen secretaries shuffling through pieces of paper to try to find the motions that were written down. Allow people to ask questions, but cut off lengthy discussions unless you have allowed time for this on the agenda. And it may be, something difficult that you have to talk about, and you've allowed more time for that one part of the agenda than for others. And this is where having read the reports allows you to sort of cut to the chase if the questioner tries to take the topic off task. You can state that the information is included in the report and move on. Or if it is not, you can let the presenter answer the question. If it gets too involved, you can jump in and defer the discussion to a more appropriate time. Side conversations are often distracting to the presenter and can interfere with the actual message that's being delivered. But here's a warning. I would be aware that some people must process new information verbally. Now, some do it subverbally, and they sort of mumble to themselves, and that doesn't really bother you too much. But some actually have to talk to another person. Initially, give those people a few moments to discuss among themselves, and then bring them back to the meeting. This will take some tact, but you need to be assertive here. Certainly, we do not want the meeting to be a series of small group meetings. Using standard procedures such as Robert's Rules of Order will maintain the flow of the meeting and allow the questioners an entry point so that they can be heard. Allow points to be presented and remind people of the objectives of the meeting, the timelines, and keep the discussion focused. Defer or table until later any items that can be handled later in the meeting or at a later date. This may mean asking the presenter to return at the next meeting with more information to satisfy the questions brought up at this meeting. As the presiding officer, you may need to paraphrase and summarize for the presenter if the information does not come across clearly. Tact and diplomacy are not qualities that are on your DNA. Watch those leaders who handle these situations well and copy their responses where appropriate. Introduce each speaker or have someone else introduce them briefly. Cabinet meetings are great places to give region or zone chairs this responsibility. Again, it gives the audience a break from your voice and allows the introducer to get to know more about the members of the group. Thank each speaker using the name and the title of report, such as, "Thank you, Lion Dawn, for the Lion's Quest report." At the end of the meeting, thank the participants once more for their attendance and their cooperation. Summarize any key decisions or projects that have been launched and ask about anything for the good of Lionism. The art of recognition. Yeah, acknowledge the hard work of Lions at the meeting. One person does not run our zones, our regions, our districts, or even our multiple districts. It's a team effort. Start with the people that help to set up the meeting. Those people who arrange for the room help set up the room, prepare to arrange the refreshments or meals, or supplied the audio-visual equipment. Point out those people who have made significant contributions to the group between meetings, and finally, those people celebrating significant anniversaries who have made ongoing contributions to the success of the group. Oftentimes, at least in our district, we'll find that governors will bring awards to be presented to members of their club, and they bring them to the cabinet meeting or the zone meeting as well. Okay, but I'm going to ask, since we're going on to the next spot in a little bit, were there any questions about during the meeting?
I don't have any displayed right now, but there might be a couple that come up in the next minute or so. But I do have one. You mentioned early on in the introductory part of the webinar about making the meetings fun, having fun
Yeah.
meetings. During a cabinet meeting or during a district meeting as such, do you have any suggestions as to how one can go through a cabinet meeting and include some type of fun in there? And I'm not talking about a tail twister, cabinet tail twister, but do you have anything in mind or anything that you've tried in the past that would interject some fun during some type of a meeting like that?
Well, fortunately for me, but I'm a trainer, so I have this repertoire of things called energizers. Energizers, little activities people can do to stand up, pretend they're a clock, or change seats with somebody else, or do a name wave around the room, or something like that that gets them up off their butt. It gives their brain a chance to relax. Mm-hmm. You can tell when your meeting is lagging because the pace slows down, and it's your reaction to your audience. Your pace slows down. And so when that happens, then you can say, okay, we need to take a little break here. You might want to stand up. And we know that we all have to change. So what we're going to do is change seats. Change seats with the person across the table from you or around the table from you. Move one to the left or something like that. And it just breaks up the meeting a little bit. If you're good at telling jokes, you can put those in there. I find that when I plan jokes to deliver, I don't deliver them very well, so I don't do that. But I have a good enough sense of humor that I can make fun of myself during the meeting pretty easily, and there's usually something I mess up, so that makes it easier to do. I think Terry Graham's on the line, so he can tell you that when I was council chair, I kept forgetting to ask for the vote. I'd get the motion and the seconder, and I kept forgetting to ask for the vote. So that became an ongoing joke after a while.
We do have a comment here. Lion AJ again. He says, I use thumb balls. Now, I've never heard of this before, so someone's going to have to explain this to me. I use thumb balls, which allows everyone to answer the question on the ball under their thumb.
Okay, you got me there. I have an energizer.
I'll tell you what, Lion AJ, he brought that up for a question here. If you want to, AJ, try to explain that for us, I will unmute you. Why don't you go ahead and raise your hand? Let me know whether you're willing to do that. The ball is tossed around. Well, that doesn't do me any good.
That's what he's saying. That's about. We used to have.
Okay, he's got his hand up. Let me go ahead and call on him.
Yeah, go ahead, bud.
All right. Good. Okay. Lion AJ, are you there? Lion AJ, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear.
Yeah, just briefly. Go ahead. No, I can't hear you, AJ. You're really distant. If you want to try typing it into the questions pane, we'll share it with everybody once we get going. Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, if you want to use balls, you can use a Nerf ball or what are those things that have the elastic band sticking out of them? I can't remember what they're called. Use those kinds of things, and those can just be the focus point. So you can't speak unless you have the ball in your hand, and one person hands it to the next, whoever's going to speak next. And they can't speak until they have the ball in their hand. And there's some off-color jokes you could use with that I won't use right now. But those kinds of things happen there too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to after the meeting. Okay.
All right, we'll do that.
Okay. Oh boy. So after the meeting, you want to hand out your prepared evaluation sheet to those people that you selected ahead of time. And remember I said earlier that you want to prepare some extra ones. You want to have some extra ones hanging around just in case somebody asks you for an evaluation sheet. That doesn't mean that they're going to put down your meeting. It could mean that they really liked your meeting and they want to let you know. Stick around too for a bit after the meeting for those Lions who want to follow up with you. But maintain your facilitation skills here during these encounters and try to keep away from having a meeting after the meeting, at least right away. You may have to defer this to, it may be a conflict situation that they want you to handle or those kinds of things. So we'd have to have that meeting at another time. And when you get your evaluations, put them away right then, but read them as soon as you can and make notes for improving your next meeting. Be in contact with your secretary now to complete and review the meeting minutes as quickly as possible. Get them distributed to the whole group as quickly as you can after your review. I try to make sure that I do this with my secretaries within that week after there. And I have some secretaries that are very good. I have a secretary at council who had the meeting minutes to me the very next day. And sometimes I didn't have time the very next day to review the review. So it took me a while to get to them. So if you can have a secretary that can do that for you, there you go. And thank the Lord for the internet because they can get it very, very quickly that way. Now, motions passed, motions denied, and requests to bring back information need to be discussed with the presenters as well. Thank them again for their efforts and then ask what actions need to be taken next. Some of the motions that we have are easier to implement than others, and they may require a set of people to do the actions required. So offer any assistance that you are able. I provided as a handout a meeting follow-up worksheet. And on the meeting follow-up worksheet, you can see that there are some columns there that maybe just keep you a little bit organized. And again, you don't have to use this, but it's there if you want to keep yourself, or you want to use that yourself. Wow. Talk to the presenters of failed motions, just to ensure they realize why their motion was defeated. We sometimes lose Lions whose ideas are rejected by the group. It may be that the presenter wasn't prepared for the group. It may be that the group wasn't prepared for the presenter. This may be something totally new they hadn't thought of before. But these people making these failed motions may feel embarrassed or shut out by the group, so you need to allay that fear. You may be able to offer suggestions on how to present a motion or how to come back with a better prepared motion on the same topic at a later date. Again, thank them for their efforts and offer any help you can give in the future. Follow up towards the time of the next meeting to ensure that all the actions have been required that have been carried out. Again, I used my follow-up checklist and I asked my secretary to keep a motions log that I can review between the meetings. It's critical that you follow up your meetings to make sure that motions agreed upon are actually implemented. And this is something that we, at least in my district anyway, we fell by the wayside on this one a couple of times. At our multiple district level, again, we had one of those very efficient secretaries who made sure that we did not mess this one up. And the motions log is actually posted on the multiple district website so that anybody can check motions going back about 6 years now, I believe. Use the meeting minutes that you had there and the evaluations to plan your next meeting. You know, that meeting's going to come up in a shorter period of time. Usually we do these quarterly, but depending on your district, you may be doing different kinds of meetings. And so make sure that you use your evaluations and the minutes from the meeting to plan your next meeting. There may be some time allotments in the schedule or the agenda for the next meeting that you might want to make a little bit bigger. And there may be some you might want to make a little bit smaller. Okay, and I would suggest that, you know, at this point, I've given you all of the input that I can give you at this time. But I would refer you to a whole pile of courses that we have so that you can work on your own skills. You can work on your leadership skills and your managing other skills on the LCI site. There's 22 courses there, and they're all very good, and they don't take that long to pull off. If you're doing this one and you're at the master's level, that would mean you've completed the bachelor's level. And so you have those first 10 courses there. There's some excellent ones in there on building your club membership. Also has some stuff in there or it should, have some stuff in there about how you build your district membership, how you acknowledge people and do those kinds of things. Your board, your team, and mentoring and orienting your newbies, that doesn't have any units yet, so maybe somebody's going to fill that in for you shortly. Two good friends of mine, Dave Durant has a thing on tail twisting, and he's a pretty funny guy. If you can steal some of his ideas for your cabinet meeting, maybe that would make them a whole bunch more fun. That's for sure. At our master's level here, we have some things about advanced facilitating skills, and past council chair John Johnson did an excellent job with that. I was going to use part of that for my presentation today, but there's no sense being redundant. It's a course you have to take anyway, so you should take that one. Using diplomacy with Gemma Wall, relative of yours, but I guess. So Gemma Wall did this using diplomacy. Again, that's something that takes practice. There are some of us who are very, very blunt, and some of us who can be wet noodles and get pushed around a little bit. So you want to be somewhere in the middle there. Use your diplomacy to make sure that you're assertive enough that the meetings get done on time. People hate meetings that drag on and on and on and on and on. And you already heard the research from Lions International to say that that's how we lose members. And it's not just club meetings we lose members at. Sometimes we do it at the district level too. Collaboration, working with your team is certainly something you have to do in the planning of the meeting. So we have lots of stuff now that we never used to have. And I would suggest to you that you should maybe check out those courses as well. This is one of those things that effective meeting management is something that people judge your leadership on. You'll hear later that, wow, that was a great meeting, or, you know, that meeting could have been better. So that gives you some indication of where you're going and how people are judging you and your leadership. Of course, leadership styles are going to waft in and out of here. There are some points where you have to be the dictator and move the meeting on, and there are other points when you can be a little bit more laissez-faire when people are having fun with the presentation. So there we are. That's my input for you. Not knowing what exact needs you had, I'm now going to ask you if you have any questions for me.
Okay, we have some more information on thumb balls.
Okay.
Lion AJ realized he wasn't able to communicate very well. He said he's got a weak microphone there, and it didn't really connect well. So he did type in some extra information. He said it's the ball they toss around, a small soft-sided soccer ball with different questions that participants would then answer. It keeps people on their toes as the ball gets passed around pretty quickly. So it gets tossed around, you catch the ball, and wherever your thumb is, that's the question you have to answer. So that's an explanation of the thumb ball.
Oh, there you go. I haven't seen one of those.
Nancy added, or she's got a question here, or a comment. Do you recommend having the reports a week early and the minutes of the cabinet meeting put onto the website after the district governor gives the blessings?
You know, if I was doing those, I would say no, but if I can delegate that task and somebody will do it, sure. The information is just, it makes that accessible for everybody, and maybe somebody couldn't attend the meeting. You know, there are lots of reasons why people can't get there. And this is another way for them to get that information. We, you know, some of our members are getting a little bit older too, and to read reports is kind of difficult, but they have software that can translate the written word into voice, and also to make the printing a little bit bigger if they have that kind of software too. Mm-hmm. So those kinds of things make it available to those people that have difficulty getting it in any other way.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers Nancy's question or totally confused her, but there you go.
Well, this is an important topic, because when you do get on the district level, district governor, or even become a district cabinet person, chairperson of a committee where you're holding your own meeting, or maybe even on a multiple district level where you're in charge of district coordinators from neighboring sub-districts. you really have to be organized and ready to go and conduct the meeting accordingly. And like you say, long, boring meetings are the main reason why our regular members leave, and they could also be reasons why our committee people and those other people with extra leadership responsibilities decide not to get involved anymore because the same old stuff, and it's a waste of my time. I have better things to do.
Right. And people are so busy today too. They have so many other things going on that Lions is only one part of their life. It's not their whole life, and it probably shouldn't be their whole life. Although I think my spouse would disagree, but there you are. One of the biggest things I found for running district meetings is that people are very good at working on their skills to manage the meeting when it actually starts, but they don't take the time to prepare that meeting and organize it that they probably should, and so things go wrong and they're not prepared for that. So the more organized you are, the more prepared you will be when things don't go quite the way you expect them.
Right. Lion Nancy added to her question about the cabinet meetings, the minutes being put on the website. She said they just started putting their reports on the website, and she was wondering, by doing that, do you think that would keep members from attending the cabinet meetings if they could just simply read the minutes on the website?
Well, if they have to give the report, it would get them there. We don't often have, no, that's not true. We do have often visitors. We just don't have a lot of them to our cabinet meetings. It's mostly the people that need to report to the other people that are at the meeting. But we do have a chance now, if it's online, for everybody to see it. So we're, at least in my district, again, we're having this discussion about the trickle down of information. Does it get past the cabinet, or does the reports go to people on the cabinet and not get down to the club level? Mm-hmm. And so by putting it on the internet, at least that makes it accessible. If somebody wants to take the time, they can go and read those reports that are there. And if you remember to tell people that they're on the website, that's always helpful too.
Right. Yeah. And if you don't have a quorum at your cabinet meetings because everyone's sitting at home waiting for the minutes to come out on the internet, there won't be any minutes to read because you won't be able to do any decisions, make any decisions. Lion AJ just made that point on here too. Lion Dave, he shares a pet peeve of his, and a very important point here. When you're sending out an invitation for a meeting, whether that be an invitation sent via email or a written invitation, whatever it might be, being invited to a meeting but not told what the purpose is, or how long the meeting will run, or what contribution is expected from the individuals attending, going into a meeting, being invited, into a meeting cold. Is kind of a bad thing to do. You really need to share as much information as required to get that person to attend the meeting, right?
Right. And of course there are, there are our catch-up meetings. We do them quarterly. We're doing them along. But if you're going to hold a thing like a GMT meeting, or like you were saying, a chairperson's meeting, people need to know what the objectives are to be there. Otherwise, they'll just say, well, I don't need to be there. They need to know why they're going. Right. Even then, some people may not come because the objectives are not meant directed towards them. Right,
exactly. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, nothing else to share right now. If something else pops up, we'll bring it. But if not, we will thank you, Lion Tom, for your participation and your preparation of the webinar this evening, gathering all this information and taking the time out of your busy schedule to share with us this evening. So we really appreciate that. And we hope to see you in Grand Rapids. And I think that's the next slide we have coming up here. Oh, I think reviewing it. Let's do that first.
Yeah, we're supposed to revisit the objectives. That's always what a good presenter does at the end.
Exactly.
So
I just tested you, that's all.
Did I pass?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, good. So here's the objectives. I have to tell you that I cheat, but I have this on another screen behind me where I have the next slide, so I know where we're going
Okay.
next.
All right.
Anyway, um, so what we've talked about is defining the role, and maybe there should be an S in there, the roles of the presiding officer, because there are so many roles that you're taking during this preparation and delivering the meeting and then following up afterwards. I really set this up so that we could look at, here's a bunch of things you can do before. Here's a bunch of things you can be concerned about during the meeting. And I actually started that on the day of the meeting. And then after the meeting to ensure that the meeting's been a success. You got some things you got to do. I've sent a sample agenda out, and there's also an invitation letter there, and you can see how that's set out in District A16, which I think they do a pretty good job. So you can see that all the things that we've mentioned are included on that. That's where I got most of my ideas. Also, you really got to go back and look at your own presentation and facilitation techniques. And I would, take notes. And people see me doing that when somebody's giving a presentation and they would say, well, don't you know that stuff already? Well, yeah, I probably do, but the notes I'm taking are on the facilitator and what the facilitator is doing. So I'm trying to build my skills up by incorporating into my own schema those skills that other people use. And again, the last thing, I don't want to ever leave this out, as the follow-up is so important to what you're doing. You don't want to get up at your next meeting or a subsequent meeting and have to report that this wasn't done. If it was supposed to be done before the next meeting, then it should be done before the next meeting. If it isn't done, then there better be some very heavy reason why it's not. So don't forget to do this in between meetings. Try to get that follow-up done so that people know that you were actually on the job and that what they decided upon was actually carried out. How's that, bud?
Not too bad. I think you covered it all there, Lion Tom.
Okay, cool.
On your screen in back of you, does it show the graduation slide next?
Yeah, no, it doesn't actually. On my next screen, it shows a question slide.
Questions, okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm just testing you again, making sure you got it right. Okay,
Okay.
we cover the questions. We don't have any new ones coming up, so
Okay.
there, we will move on to the graduation slide. Just a reminder that at the USA Canada Forum, which is next week,
Yeah.
we will be holding the graduation ceremonies for both the bachelor and the master's program. It will be held on Friday evening from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And the location will be the Pantland Ballroom in the Amway Grand. So everyone who will be graduating from one or both of those levels of the school, the university, we hope to see you there. You will receive one of those pins down below, or maybe both of those. The bachelor recipients will receive the pin on the left, and the master's the one on the right. And you will also receive a diploma that will be presented to you and be able to have your picture taken with the international president, Dr. Yamada. So we all look forward to seeing all the graduates there. The faculty members will be there, as well as the staff members, and it should be a good time. We only have an hour, so please get there on time, because we're going to start on time and end on time. The proper
Attaboy, bud.
proper meeting management. Okay. All right. So hope to see everybody there. Cap and gown not required, but we will be there. We'll have your picture taken with the president, so dress accordingly. Our next webinar actually will be after the forum, but as you can see on the slide, the forum is in Grand Rapids, September 17th through the 19th. We will have 5 master level courses being offered at the forum. We will have 5 bachelor level courses being offered at the forum, and we'll have 3 doctoral level courses being offered at the forum. So this will be the first time that the doctorate program will be offered, and Lion past International Director Terry Graham is the Dean of the Doctorate Program, and he will be there to explain that program to everyone and its requirements too as well. Following the forum on the 29th of September, we will begin sessions again, our webinars again, with beginning with the Bachelor Elective Class 129 on the lines of LCIF, Lions Clubs International Foundation. And sometime in October, probably, we will begin our courses for the doctorate program. So that is coming, and we're real excited about that program too as well. And of course, you can register for the LCIF course on the lionsuniversity.org website by going to the calendar page and clicking onto that course to register. So we hope to see you there for that. A reminder, after this course, after you log off here, you can take the quiz for the meeting management class by going to the lionsuniversity.org masters and going on to the course page 224 for meeting management, and clicking like we showed you at the very beginning, clicking on course completed, and then on to the next tab to take the quiz. And that's all loaded and ready to go. And we wish everyone well with that particular test. And with that, seeing no other questions that have come through, Lion Tom, I want to thank you again for an excellent presentation, and we look forward to seeing you in Grand Rapids next weekend.
Well, I'll be there, and thank you for the opportunity. It was my pleasure.
You're welcome. We hope to see everyone there, or if not in Grand Rapids, at another webinar course coming to you on Tuesday evenings. So with that, don't forget to log out by going up into your control panel under the file and clicking on leave webinar, so we're going to get everyone logged off and ready to go. So Tom, if you want to hold on for a little while after we get everybody logged off, we'll just touch base a little bit, and Terry, you can do the same, and we'll just chat for a minute afterwards, okay?
Terrific.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.